Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 143 different nations looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. One of the things that makes a great difference as far as developing the economies and allowing for mobility and economic development, of course, is transportation and personal transportation. And what we're doing is looking at the future generations and how they're going to be involved in the electric vehicles, hydrogen, and all the alternative fuel-sourced vehicles that really are going to be making a difference as we move through the 21st century. We have a gentleman that's been with us before, and we always like having him back. This is Charles. He goes by Charlie Garlow, who is the president of the Electronic Automobile Association of Washington, D.C. And Charlie, you are actually part of one of the most dynamic organizations, I think, in the United States for sure, and possibly in the world, as far as looking at EVs, electrical vehicles. Tell us about your association.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so, Sam. Yes, we're excited about the movement of people around the world, not just here in Washington, D.C. or in America.
Which is where I just think is so exciting about what you're doing, because you really, even though you're here in this region, you really incorporate the globe in what you're doing.
Right. We like to think of Washington, D.C. as sort of being an international city. We welcome people here from other countries. I was talking to a friend in Switzerland just last week who had been here in Washington, D.C. with his solar electric car some years back. So we're sort of a crossroads of the globe here in Washington.
But looking at your association, really, what's the purpose of it? How long have you been around? A little bit of the history, and then we'll get into some of the specifics as far as the programming efforts that you make.
Our association began back in 1979 when they had this oil crisis of 1979. In the Middle East, there was a shortage of oil, or there was claimed to have been. In any event, gas prices went way up, and a lot of people got interested in some alternatives to gasoline, like electric cars. And since a lot of people had driven around in golf carts before, they thought, hey, why can't we just soup those things up a little bit and get some real
stretch
cars?
them and put a little height to it.
And in fact, that's exactly what we've done. Our club over this last several decades has been taking existing cars and pimping the ride, if you will, juicing them up to be regular cars that you can commute to work in, or you can use in drag races, or any kind of opportunity to use vehicles that you might be interested in doing. And now we're seeing that the major automobile manufacturers in this country and around the world are starting to sell very good products that are electric vehicles. You don't have to be a shade tree mechanic anymore like me and fix up your old junker and make it into an electric car anymore. You can buy one right off the dealership floor.
Well, let's bring up a couple of these slides. We're just going to go through these as we talk, Charlie. And we've had General Motors was on with us recently. We had VIA Motors, which is out in the West, and they're focused on utility vehicles, pickups specifically. But I know that you have a lot of seminars, and this is one of those, and also you have a very active club, if we can call it that.
Yes.
What are the numbers of people involved, and how do you actually attract new people to, because you keep expanding the membership base?
Yes, this shot here is one of our monthly meetings of the Electric Vehicle Association, and we have a lot of rowdy people in our club. Everybody has an opinion and they want to share it. We have meetups in which everybody will bring their electric cars out to show each other and look under the hood and what have you got and how does it perform, and we've got mechanics and inventors and professors and all sorts of people who are part of our club. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I know the overview, it talks about not only just people that are really interested in automobiles, but also you have a number of schools that are involved, the school systems, universities, as well as government agencies are involved and represented through various professionals, as well as the laymen.
Sure. We have members of our club who work for the Department of Energy, who work for the Patent Office, where they patent new, exciting ideas. That's always fun. We have people like me who work for EPA, Environmental Protection. A lot of different federal agencies have interesting people who join in our efforts.
Well, looking at your work at the EPA, I know you're doing that. You're really specifically looking at clean air. What do you see as the crossover from what you do as far as the association is concerned, the Electric Vehicles Association, and your EPA work, and how both of those benefit from this type of interrelationship?
Well, I'm not here today representing the EPA,
No,
of course.
that's not what I asked you.
That's my day job, and it's a very nice job. Thank all you taxpayers for paying your taxes so I can have a nice job working for the government, helping to enforce the Clean Air Act. But in my spare time, I like to promote electric vehicles because they are clean, good for the air, but they're also good for the water. I mean, all those oil spills you read about, the Exxon Valdez and all that's water spills. If you didn't have all that oil, if you had electric cars instead, you wouldn't have that problem. So a lot of environmental problems can be solved by using cleaner, better technologies like electric vehicles.
Well, looking at the people there from the Patent Office, Department of Energy and all that, what do you see as the crossover? And this goes back to the question I asked you just a minute ago. What types of skills, knowledge, data are shared back and forth? Because even though people are with government agencies, through a very active club like this, you can reach thousands of people that would be almost a non-traditional audience as far as just a government agency itself.
Yes, we try to do a lot of effort in outreach. We have people in our club who are engineers, who are lawyers like me, who are communication specialists like you, and all those skills together that they bring from their jobs to our club help us in promoting electric vehicles and talking about their benefits to the public.
Well, looking at this, where you're involving the schools and students, I think this is absolutely fantastic, where you're getting all ages. We're going to have one of those students who's going to come on with us soon. But looking at what types of outreach are you doing as far as the schools, elementary, high school, and universities, and what kind of response are you getting as far as the interest in EV, electric vehicles?
Well, a lot of the students are very excited about electric vehicles because they see it as something new and the future, and it's very close to being like robots, which are basically electric motors inside of a moving whatever it is, robot they've got. So there's a crossover between robot clubs and electric vehicle clubs. A lot of university students are looking at electric vehicles as being a growing area where there would be employment as engineers and electronic
specialists. As far as green jobs is concerned.
That's right. They're looking for a job. Well, this is a growing area of the economy, so they would like to get in on that maybe.
Well, looking at this, the parents out there looking at these students, what is advice to the parents as far as encouraging their son, and particularly their daughters, because we're looking at non-traditional career paths, and getting involved at a very young age so they already have the aptitude, they have the appreciation, and then they can start gaining the skills they need in math and science and communications and other areas.
We think that these teaching modules, like the Junior Solar Sprint race car you'll see here in a minute, our young fellow Josh Yoon will bring on, is a great way to learn about science, technology, engineering, math, these STEM ideas. We need more people in this country, young people, girls and boys.
But a young and tender age, though.
Yes, get them young while, I mean, they're smart. You'll see, Josh is a sharp little fella, and he is able to consider all the gear ratios and the electronics involved in his solar panel and all the particulars of aerodynamic streamlining. There's a lot of engineering goes into these little cars they can build.
Well, looking at this charging station, I know this is one thing, they're just popping up all over the area. There are now several hundreds of these throughout our region, and they're going around the United States. How does this actually reach out and kind of grab the attention of people so they, hey, maybe I should investigate or learn more about what this EV thing is?
Well, I think people are curious. They're interested in new things, and they see somebody like me plugging into one of these public charging spots, and they wonder what that is. And they'll stop over and they'll ask me, and it's fun. You get to meet new people. I like that. Also, in some of these pictures, you can see that you can plug into just a regular old wall socket that you'd stick a lamp plug into and charge up your electric vehicle. You don't need one of the new, big, high-tech, expensive things. If you can find a little wall socket to plug into, you can get some energy for your car.
Well, Charlie, you talk about level 1, level 2. What's the difference between the two? Because everywhere I go, we talk about electric vehicles vehicles, people ask, well, what's this level 2, level 1 thing?
Right. For years, I've owned electric vehicles, and I've plugged into a regular lamp socket type wall socket, 120 volts. We call that level 1. It doesn't charge as fast as if you were at level 2, which is 240 volts, which is the same sort of double voltage, if you will, from the other that you use to run your electric stove.
It's more industrial or heavy appliance type of
Yes, heavy appliance, like your electric stove, your electric dryer, or your electric air conditioner. Your whole house air conditioner uses 240 voltage. It's not that uncommon to find that 240 voltage at your house, and so you can use that to charge your electric car faster than you can with just a level 1. They're even coming out with level 3, which would be super fast, and you could fill up within 30 minutes or 15 minutes, just about as fast as you can with gasoline.
And this, looking at this car, and this is where they're going out to, around to the shopping centers and even to the schools and other places. What types of variety of places can people find these charging stations?
Well, lots more all the time. We've got Walmarts and Walgreens and let's see, I think Mom's Organic Grocery, any place you'd want to stop for a while to go into the store or a movie theater or whatever, it's a great time for you to charge up your car. So they're thinking that we'll have some charging spots here for our customers, and they'll want to come to our store. So a lot of storefronts or commercial outfits are putting these in, but also at public spots. Government agencies like my own are installing these charging places for their employees who commute to work.
Well, looking at these two cars, I'm going to go back to this one and go forward. I mean, these are exciting looking cars.
Well,
And having had a chance to drive several of these, I mean, these things really go.
They are. Electricity and it travels at the speed of light, which is the fastest stuff in the universe. Well, that's kind of exciting, I think. But a lot of people say, well, these are normal-looking cars. They don't look weird like some spaceship or anything like that, and that's okay, because people, I think, like, here's a Toyota RAV4 that's all electric, doesn't have any gasoline.
I think this is really interesting, Charlie. Look at the solar panels on top of the house actually being used to charge this. We can bring the slide up so we have full view. I think this would be of interest to our viewers, because the gentleman is actually producing his own electrical energy that's going into his vehicle.
That's one of my pals, Brian Murtha, who lives out towards Annapolis, who charges up his electric vehicles and his home's energy on the solar panels he has on the roof. He's a great guy.
I tell you, I just think it's fantastic. We're going to end with this one, Charlie. We're almost out of time. A few seconds left. What would you like to share with our domestic and international audience about electric vehicles?
Well, just remember some of the benefits of electric vehicles. And they're not only clean for the environment, but they avoid the importation of oil from overseas, which helps with our balance of payments, which is good for our country, or for other countries that don't have all the oil they need. And it's good for our national security. We don't have to rely on other people. So a lot of good things about electric vehicles.
Well, Charlie Garlow, who is an attorney, Esquire, president of the Electric Vehicle Association of Washington, D.C. Thank you for being back with us, sharing information about the EV automobiles. And thank you, viewers, for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or a family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half of it.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 143 different nations, looking for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. One of those services and the infrastructure, of course, is education. And whatever we're going to be doing for the future as far as renewable energy sources, electric vehicles, whatever transportation we're going to have, we have to be involved, all citizens, in this effort. This young fellow sitting beside me is one of the leaders for the future. This is Joshua Yoon, and he's in school in the Washington, D.C. area, and he participates in what they call the Junior Solar Sprint, and this is something that's very, very important to prepare the young generation for futures as engineers, as scientists, developers, and other types of activities. We also have Charles Garlow. He goes by Charlie, so I don't think anybody would even know him by Charles. He's the president of the Electric Vehicle Association in Washington, D.C., and they're actually the sponsors of the Sprint. So Joshua, welcome.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. And big voice, and then Charlie, welcome back.
Thank you, Sam. We're glad to be sponsors of the Junior Solar Sprint and get gobs of young students like Josh out to compete in some of these races. I see you've got a picture there of some of the race action.
Okay, we're going to bring up, we already have this slide up here, and I think this is absolutely fantastic. And Charlie, looking at why did you start the Junior Solar Sprint, and what was the year that actually all of this started? Because it's been around quite a while, I think.
Yes, I've been involved for 22 years doing Junior Solar Sprint races.
Are you that old?
And there were people before me who were doing it. The Argonne National Laboratory developed this concept thinking it would be a great way to reach young minds with this sort of science, technology, engineering, math skills that Josh has developed, and other students like Josh, to build and race these cars.
Well, I think it's fantastic, the trophy that you're having here, and it really encourages the young people. And I understand there's about 100,000 students and 15,000 teachers and professors around the U.S. involved in this, Charlie. That's a big number.
And more all the time. We're glad to see it, and we hope to have some national competitions. Perhaps we can send Josh up to Massachusetts or someplace else for other races. Now, Josh, can you tell us a little bit about what you have on your car here?
This is my car, the solar roller.
Okay, let's see if we can hold this up a little bit. Okay, now just go ahead and I'll hold it and you tell us about it.
This is the solar panel, and basically the body's just made out of a Home Depot ruler, which is very cheap, but yeah.
Well, Home Depot will thank you for the plug, so that's a good thing. Now, looking at the wheels on this, tell us about the mechanism, because I know that there's certain parts that you have to have, and there's certain calculations, correct?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead, tell us about that.
So the solar panel, it sends power when it gets sun, goes to the motor, which powers the gears.
It's over there.
Okay, and we're going to turn this up if I can not destroy your automobile. Your parents may not like it if I do that. Okay, and we have the engine in here, right?
Yes.
Okay, and tell us how this works as far as the wheels are concerned and allows this to be propelled.
Well, it all depends on the gear ratio, which makes the car either slower or faster, and that's right here between the
Okay, and I'm going to
motors.
slowly turn this around. So
Okay, Sam, if you break
we can
it,
show
Josh
that.
can fix anything. He's an engineer.
I think I've already broken it, but that'll give us an idea of what this looks like. But I'm going to set this down because I don't want to do any more damage to your vehicle. And we have your trophy here, so we know that you're an award winner. But looking at this, how does this fit into your studies at school as far as science, mathematics, engineering? How does all this fit together? You're a very young man to be doing all this.
Yeah, it's all about science and math because the gear ratios, you have to calculate which will be best in which situation. Like if there's half sun or full sun or how much sunlight's going to be, you're going to have to change the gear ratio to fit the perfect situation and go as fast as possible. And yes, I chose this gear ratio and it worked pretty nicely.
Looks like you've actually got a couple of different gears on there, so you can switch back and forth. Is that right, Josh?
Not exactly. That other gear is just a spacer. It really does not do anything.
Oh, okay, good. I got
Well, that's okay. It's very aerodynamic because what you wanted to do is make sure you had the minimum drag as far as the vehicle is concerned. So when you talk about this Home Depot ruler, that was really a smart way to slice through the air, right?
Yeah.
Now, how did you come up with that idea?
Well, I needed a body and I ran out of balsa wood, which is like the best material I could find, but I couldn't find any more balsa wood, so I just decided on using a ruler because it's sturdy and it's strong, and I guess I thought it would work very well.
And as long as you don't have a TV host pulling your car apart, right?
Now, Josh, you won first place with this big trophy, right?
Yes.
How many heats did you have to go through to get to be the top winner?
I believe around like 5, 6, around that number.
And so how many other youth like you were in each of those heats then as you're going through? Was this a 2-man race, a 3-man, 6-man, girls and boys, right?
Yes. I don't exactly remember the exact number, but it was around 6 to 9 people. I
Oh my
forgot what.
goodness. So this was really, when you win first place in that, there's a lot of people you're competing against.
Oh yeah, but there were total 60 people. It's just in one race there's 6 to 9 people.
Oh my
Yeah, you have
goodness.
6
Well,
or
that's
9
what I was
cars
talking
racing
about.
all at one time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
The winner of that gets to move and advance.
Yeah, but 60 competing, that really means something. Looking at the Electric Vehicle Association of Washington, D.C., Charlie, what is the benefit as far as the members get out of this? I know about society benefits and all that, but what about the members themselves? What do they get out of sponsoring these types of races for the students?
Well, the members of the Electric Vehicle Club are almost all adults, but they're very eager to see and recruit young folks who are going to get interested in electric vehicles, and maybe they'll be members of our club again as they grow up or go off to college. Maybe they'll pursue a career in engineering, and that would be very gratifying to us.
Now, looking at, you're called Dr. Zoom, I think. I don't know. Hopefully, I'm not revealing anything on TV that we shouldn't be talking about, Dr. Zoom. But how did you get that name, and then how does that really fit into this whole effort that you make as far as the association and working with young scientists and engineers like Joshua?
Well, you pick up some strange names along the way, Sam. Many people have called me lots of things, not some so flattering, but Dr. Zoom is okay. I can live with that name. I think it came from the fact that I'm usually the race master at these races, so that Josh and other competitors will be there at the starting line, and I'll say, ready, get set, go, and off they'll go, and I will give a running commentary on, there goes Josh, he's in the lead, and watch out, and they're zooming along, and that's sort of how I got the name Dr. Zoom.
Well, you have the perfect voice for it and the perfect personality, doesn't he, Joshua?
Yes.
Now, looking at, we're going to leave this slide up for just a little bit. Looking at this, what did you get out of having this competition with the 60 youth that are in there that you feel like that maybe you couldn't get out of just taking math and science and engineering classes in school?
Well, I guess this is more like interactive, and you get to actually work, like make something, and you could like see your results better when you build something and have other people that you're competing against.
Well, it's something it's immediate and it's very tangible, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now, looking at the design you have, this is very aerodynamic. You talked about you couldn't get the balsa wood, so we know about this being this ingenuity as far as coming up with something at the last minute. What are some of the other designs that you saw that actually just intrigued you that's a little different than what you designed?
Well, I saw lots of different cars, but one that one I thought was kind of interesting was like this. It was a very small car, but it looked very nice, and it went fast, except for it crashed for some reason. I thought it would have went well if it was just stayed on track.
So, so you have to be very careful with your design. Also, make sure it can go straight, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's kind of like Charlie, when you're horse racing, you'll make sure the horse keeps going towards the end zone and not veers off to have some grass or something
I will
like
point out
that.
that this is a unique design. Nobody else had a car design like Josh's there.
Well, I know as I traveled throughout Asia, you see this design everywhere in a number of religious designs, and as soon as I saw that, I said, this reminds me of places I've been in Bhutan and India and Bangladesh and places like that. So
Doesn't look like Bhutan to me. What is it about that?
it's actually, this is the sword of God, if you will, and so this is a symbol for many of the temples that you have throughout Asia. So it's a very interesting design that you came up with. Charlie, looking back at where you're going in the future, I know that there's a number of different events that you have for all ages. Tell us a little bit about the different events beyond the Junior Solar Sprint.
Well, I'm hoping to recruit Josh and his fellow students to come out to our drag races we have for big people, but they also have what they call the Junior Dragsters, in which you get to sit in the car. Haven't told you about this yet, have I, Josh?
Now, do I get to come along and
Yes.
go? Okay,
Sure,
all
you
right.
can come along.
You have to
You're-
make sure I show up, Joshua. Okay.
At the drag races, you're allowed to have people who don't have a driver's license yet drive in the drag race because it's a short distance, and they have special safe cars, but they're pretty fast. And so the Junior Dragster, I think we have a picture of it in there. You can be, I think you have to be at least 6th grade, and that's okay for Josh. But you have to have a helmet and take all the safety precautions. And then we can get people interested in racing electric cars that way when they're younger, and then when they get bigger, they can have their driver's license and they can drive all sorts of electric cars, and they will help to forward the movement to cleaner transportation in this country.
Well, I know it's very important to be doing this at this age, but I know there's some other activities that you have too. And about the adults, what kinds of things are you doing for the adults? Because you're intriguing, actually you're getting probably more adults involved because of the number of youth. And they're certainly going to support their son and daughter to come out, so they just show up, start
Right.
showing up for your EVADC.
That's right. And September 23rd coming up, we're having National Plug-in Day. Cities all across America, and maybe around the world too, will be showing off their electric cars to people in the public. We're going to be having an event down by the U.S. Capitol, and we hope to have lots of people who are tourists down that way stop by and look under the hood.
Well, I know this is one of the things with the Department of Energy. They have the Solar Decathlon, and this is a 2-year process as far as solar homes is concerned. So, Joshua, you're onto something here as far as your solar car. We only have, oh my goodness, we're almost run out of time. What would you like to share with other children around the globe?
Well, I guess if you just put your effort and just just work on something, then you can just be good, I guess.
You can win, right?
Yes.
Well
Okay.
said.
Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe and bringing you the Solar Decathlon and other things as we create the Emerald Planet.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing. No.
127 consecutive. Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. As you know, we look around the globe in 143 different nations that we're looking at how we can bring about the power for the future, looking at alternative renewable energy sources and how this relates to transportation and the infrastructure that's needed for that. We have someone with us who is very active in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, and this is the Baltimore-Washington Electric Vehicle Initiative, Jill Sorensen, and she's an attorney and committing her time to this because she just believes that we need to be moving forward as far as what's going on and to make the United States and many other countries independent. So Jill, welcome.
Thank you, Sam. Good to be here.
Glad to have you with us, and thank you for sharing information about Baltimore, Washington, and the vehicle initiative that you have going there. Tell us, what is this association and how did it start?
Betty is a nonprofit. It's based in Maryland, started about 5 years ago, so we're just a small child compared to the likes of the Electric Vehicle Association of DC, which has some 30 years of support and enthusiasm for electric vehicles. Betty,
and thousands of members, too.
Yeah,
it's a
doing
very
a
active
job.
organization.
And having great fun all the time. So we're just a little kid by comparison, but we started about 5 years ago to really raise awareness about electric vehicles. We anticipated they'd be on the market soon, but we needed to really get the word out more.
Well, we're going to put your logo up here, so this will be shared around the globe. And tell us about the design of this, what it means, and how did you come up with this?
Well, we're headquartered in Baltimore, so that was a little convenient for us. There's not an EV in the center of that plug for a reason. Maryland was the first state in the country to adopt for-benefit legislation. There are for-benefit corporations, and so what we wanted to promote was a triple bottom line of people, planet, profits. It's important to engage...
Say that again. That's very interesting.
People, planet, and profits.
Okay.
What's described as an expansion of wealth creation. It's important to make money. Companies are not successful if they're not doing so. But we also have to think about the planet, the environment. What's the cost to us operating any of our companies or our lifestyles? And then what are the wellness benefits, the quality of life? How do we live? What does that mean for people? So that really is a triple bottom line that we're interested in promoting.
And that's what the Emerald Planet's all about. We've been around since 1973, and we started out with this balance between the environment and the economy, and of course civil society development as well. But if you don't really focus on, as far as the economy, creating new jobs, green jobs, people are just not going to really focus on the environment. So it really is critical for this balance. So what are you doing as far as your association to really keep this focus and to allow people to understand that you really do have this triple bottom line?
Our primary focus has been getting charging stations out and getting the word out. The electric vehicles, I'm driving a Volt. I've had it only for about 8 months. So just getting the cars out has been big. They're newer in production, but they need to plug in somewhere. And now I plug my Volt into a 110 outlet at my home. So that's not a big deal, but what Bevy did was we raised funds. We worked with the state, with the governor's office, the Maryland Energy Administration, Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Department of of the environment. A lot of this is collaborative. We have to bring people together doing different things and different jobs and talk about what's possible. So we put charging stations in place. Right now Maryland has about 400.
I think it's fantastic, and I know that your governor, Martin O'Malley, has just been really to the fore as far as governors around the United States and American territories to really promote renewables and electric vehicles, well, all the alternatives, not just the electric vehicles. And so when you think about your governor, what do you think about as far as his support and actually leading to the creation of an initiative like yours?
He's been very instrumental and a fine leader in green. So he's a big fan of clean cities, clean energy, advances for the environment, clean air, water. The thing about electric vehicles is they're zero tailpipe emission, and if you can tie them to renewable energy sources, total zero emission. The governor spent a lot of time thinking about the Chesapeake and our watershed and the natural resources that make Maryland a rich environment to be in.
And that's the Chesapeake Bay for all those that are not from this area.
Thank you. So he's been a fan of electric vehicles for quite a while. He was sporting a Volt at one of our first ribbon cuttings, which was an installation at Baltimore-Washington International Airport. And he drove up to a Volt and plugged into a charging station that was assembled here with a company that started here in Maryland to produce SemaConnect charging stations. And he was beaming. I mean, he really was enjoying not just the opportunity to talk about this emerging technology and clean transportation, but just what it means for our kids. There's a terrific tie to education and providing resources for the planet for the next generation.
Well, I've heard him interviewed a number of times, particularly in NPR, National Public Radio, and he's constantly talking about renewables. It may be something, a totally different conversation about jobs or about the local tax base, creating new industries, and it always keeps coming back in. It keeps weaving that through there as far as renewable energy, but also alternative vehicles that we have beyond the internal combustion engine.
It's very real in terms of jobs creation. There's a GM plant in White Marsh, Maryland, which is a good example of what you cite. As more and more auto manufacturers are converting to electric drive transmissions, we see plants like the Allison Engine facility with some $246 million investment. Started out with 200 jobs, is now up to 800 jobs, GM operating the plant, and some of those parts are going into vehicles like the Volt. So it's real. It's really not just something prospective, but it's happening now.
Well, Jill, looking at your association, how do you feel like that you as an association can really not just keep this on the minds of people, but actually propel people, to entice people to become involved and feel like this is something that they can actually do themselves, and it's really important for them and their families?
I would say the first thing is to go to a dealership and just take a test drive. There are now more models. I'm so excited about the Think, the Volt, BMW's got an Active E, the Nissan Leaf. There are more and more varieties. Tesla's a beautiful vehicle.
I told you about the Mercedes-Benz that I had in Austria. Was an A-Class E-Cell. Absolutely fantastic car.
These are wonderful advances. The Think is a $15,000 price. It's a more modest vehicle compared to some of the others, perhaps the Mercedes. But when you drive these vehicles in a city, you think about how you're, to me, fortifying the city. Zero emissions mean a cleaner city, which means cleaner air, cleaner water. People should get out and drive and encourage their new drivers, that new generation of drivers, to take a test themselves. They drive just like any other vehicle, really, and the great pickup, fun to drive. Quiet.
Well, when you say talking about how they drive like other vehicles, one of the things that actually, before I really started driving on the open road with the Mercedes, is that we had to go through a test course, because when you really mash the pedal, as we would think of a gas pedal, I mean, this thing just jumps ahead. And so you have to be very careful with that, and then not overcorrect, because it's easy to do with the pickup on these engines.
Great pickup. Yes.
Now, looking at, I know we're going to be have another session. We're going to be talking about the youth and the YES core program and all that. How are you involving the adults? Let's focus on the adults. How are you reaching out into the community to get them involved, again, to make them feel like this is something that they can do, it's actually real for them?
The first of our work was to sustainability officers. So Bevy started really about 2009 going to sustainability offices. Maryland's comprised of 24 counties, and each of them thinks and works a little differently. It's like provinces or in other areas. You have to talk to people about what they care about in their particular region. So we started with county governments, sustainability officers, and then branched out from there to different stakeholder sets. Property managers, electricians, auto dealerships, those folks who sell cars don't always think about all the other impact and the connections that need to be made.
Well, and also too, the ripple effect it has in the economy, because many people think, well, I'm selling my car, and they may know, yes, they're electricians and they're assembly people as far as the charging stations and all that, but if you look at it, something with that car, you're generating 7 or 8 other jobs, and it's a tremendous ripple effect throughout society that I don't think even the politicians don't think about.
Well, that's an understatement. I recently testified before the Maryland Public Service Commission and was making the point that transportation should be part of the equation of energy efficiency. We don't think of vehicles as things that plug into built architecture. These electric vehicles will. That makes some folks nervous because they think, the grid's pretty congested, we don't want to congest it more. But if we think about pairing the electricity up with renewable energy sources, and the governor and Maryland Energy Administration, others in the state are doing that actively, wind and solar, geothermal, we can actually fortify the grid if we're doing this the right way. But that was a little surprising. The argument really hadn't been made. The PSC was founded in 1910, and though transportation's written into its charter, it mostly regulates the utilities, and the utilities mostly deliver heat, power, light, support for our electronics, but don't deal with transportation per se.
Well, one of the things that we're doing, Jill, is actually we're going back in time, back to the turn of the century. This is the coming to the 20th century, and actually majority of the cars were actually electric in those days. This is something people don't really know about or think about. And at one time, they said as maybe as much as 80% of all the early cars are actually electric. And then, of course, we went the other way as far as internal combustion engines. So what types of feedback are you getting from the adults in the population as far as having these demonstrations, going out and talking with local government officials? What are they saying out there?
People are excited. They're excited to see the technology, and they're also cautious. I think as a general rule, people don't like change. We love the idea of driving endlessly. We like to go across country, even though we may only do that once in 10 years.
Yeah, what's the 27 miles is the daily trip for most people?
Yeah,
in urban areas?
And in reality, we don't travel as much, but psychologically, we like the idea of traveling. So what we found is a certain amount of excitement, but caution. And so what we're needing to demonstrate is this is fun. I average 125 miles to the gallon. It's possible, it's less expensive, and we have more and more vehicles for people to test drive.
Well, we have just a few seconds left, so Jill, why don't you share with us, you're going to come back, we're going to talk about youth and what's going on. We have a video that you're shared with us, and then we'll talk about the Yes Corps. But 30 seconds, what would you like to share with our domestic international audiences?
Electric vehicles are here. They're the emerging technology of the year, described as clean energy next industrial revolution. When we connect those EVs to renewable energy sources, we're a great friend of the planet and to our own wellness and benefits.
Fantastic. Couldn't summarize that any better. And thank you, viewers, for being with us as we talk about alternative energy sources. And the vehicles are going to take us through into 2050. Paving the way to 2050 is one of our themes. Thank you for being with us as we look around to create the Emerald Planet.
Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about nothing very nice. Homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches, don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire!
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent. Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet in Washington, D.C. We're looking for 1,000 best practices that can make a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we look at moving towards 2050, paving the way to 2050, the new Earth, we're talking about all of the many technologies, the services, and the products that are actually in the economy that can be used that make a difference as we move towards 9 billion souls on this planet. And we have someone that's working very diligently, day in and day out, to address this issue, looking at it from the standpoint of transportation, electric vehicles, and looking for all the alternatives. This is Jill Sorensen. She's an attorney, and she's the Baltimore-Washington Electric Vehicle Initiative as the executive director there. And also she has a program that's called YES, and this is the Youth Energy Service Corps. And we're going to be talking about a lot of those things, Jill, but I want to kick off with one of the things that you're doing as far as the Green Street Academy. We have a video. We're going to show you about 3 minutes of it, and then we're going to use that, Jill, to talk about some of the things that are going on with your various publics and the youth. So if we can key up this video, about 3 minutes of that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk further about what's going on with the YES Corps.
Our scholars are being prepared for careers in the green economy. One of our content areas that we're working on is to develop careers in transportation and energy.
We want to help them understand the impacts that their choices have on our planet, on the next generation.
Regular cars to me that you would see on the street, they're just not out there on the street.
You know, a piece of what we talk about is what's new? What does your future look like? When I think of you driving your future, are you in a better place, a cleaner city?
In March, I'll be building my own electric car.
My car is going to win. Who wants to drive?
My name is Kenneth Bland and I go to Green Street Academy. I like to go here because it's a welcoming environment and we have nice teachers and everyone gets along.
We do extra stuff like recycling and green stuff to help the earth. My favorite subject has to be science. It's like you discover new things that you never knew to happen on this earth.
I came to this program because I'm in a technology class and it's interesting to me how we can use electrical power cars and it'll be better for the environment.
I'm always optimistic with our youth and I think we're developing some good curriculum. They're learning about math, they're learning about science, they're learning about engineering, and they're given the opportunities to apply this knowledge to solve some of the problems that we're facing.
Yeah, looking at that, Jill, it's really exciting, the work that you're doing as far as the Baltimore-Washington Electric Vehicle Initiative and working with the schools and the energy that you have among these young people. Tell us about how you thought about getting involved in that, and the coalition that you have around this is huge.
Green Street Academy in particular starts the day with, these are middle school kids, with the phrase, charge it up. So speaking of energy, they deliver it, right?
No pun intended in any of this, right?
No, it worked nicely for us. We were funded by Constellation Energy to help launch this program. And so we were able to connect with the kids, and they made it kind of easy. We made introductions, as you do when you're building coalitions, to Bill DeLuca, the National Science Foundation funded professor who put together the competition for the kids. What we don't see in the little video segment is that they actually first sat down in front of computers and they did some modeling. So they were able to see the engineering and manipulate the images and take a look at the impact of the science they were putting together. Then they were virtually racing each other's cars, and then they stepped out and they built their vehicles and they raced them. So I think they had a lot of fun. They were powered by photovoltaics, so they had a sense of the science behind it. But in addition, you've heard folks talk about STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math.
And we ought to add to that, because when you hear the articulation of these young people and talking about it, and you have a chance to see the entire video, and we'll put that on our website, you really learn they're very articulate, and they're taking all these various skills that they have and then bring in the social sciences so that you have the technology, the social science blended together.
We call it STEAM education, as in the A for the arts represents the importance of communication. So another school, Wide Angle Youth Media, high school, filmed those kids, and they went through interviewing skills. The arts, digital media, social media was another component which we think is just as important in terms of science literacy. Can you talk about your data? Can you speak with your other classmates and your teachers?
And speak with authority. This is one of the things that we have the assistants that work with the Emerald Planet. They get involved in the television production, but also every aspect of it, so that they're learning how to communicate at the same time they're learning the technical skills, and that's really important. And I think, Jill, that's something that's quite unique about your association and what you're doing.
Well, thank you. We're having fun with it. We also know that for a certain number of kids, science seems elusive, or it seems too hard, or the engineering is for...
Just the thought of it is just, they quake in their shoes almost.
So the idea of giving them the viewfinder, and this is what Wide Angle Youth Media does in particular. Here's a camera. Tell us what you see. And that's the kid driving their interest and portraying their environment, what's important to them. We wanted to do that from the electric vehicle perspective.
Right.
Think about the impact on the environment with no tailpipe emissions.
Well, let's look at the map here. This is Maryland. This is all the various counties and the cities that you have. And Maryland, like most states through the United States, are quite diverse and very different publics that you have. What's some of the common themes, though, Jill, that you're seeing across Maryland that's involved through the agencies, through the governor's office, your initiative, and also down to the local county administrators and the city mayors?
Very strong interest in sustainability and clean cities.
Across the state? Across
the entire state. So there are now positioned sustainability officers working hand in hand with economic development officers in each of the counties. They're very, very conscious of impact for some real dollar terms as well.
And real jobs.
And real jobs.
Yeah,
so,
I think this is something we have to really bring out. I was about ready to go by this photograph here. Tell us about the youth and what's YES Corps.
The YES Corps is a youth service corps focused on energy and the environment. You can add a couple of E's when you start to think about engineering and economics, but the YES gets a little too stretchy. The basic point was we really wanted young people to tell us what they cared about. We're just giving a little bit of fuel, talking about electric vehicles, but we really wanted to build a program that they drove.
So this is really the platform upon which the youth themselves then can really create their own vehicle as far as learning is concerned, no pun intended again, but also to move forward in the future as far as the avenues they want to explore, but still relating back to EV.
Exactly. We had 21 students this summer. We launched the County Yes Corps internships. 7 of them were wide-angle youth media students, so focused more on the filming side and digital media. The others were
Also,
diverse.
this was the arts and the technology that you actually incorporated within the internships themselves throughout the summer.
And we're still working on. So we wanted the students to go over content. Tell us, I can point them to a Department of Energy website. That doesn't mean they'll like reading expository material. They're very video and digital multimedia strong.
Hands-on,
Yeah.
very much hands-on.
So they identified content, engaged social media, and then prepared, we needed more time, to do more outreach in their communities. So what Charles County would like to hear about may be different from Howard County and Montgomery County. So
Or
we
downtown
really-
Baltimore,
Yeah.
as an example.
Right, so they were distributed. Some were finance-focused, others were more arts-focused, others more multimedia.
Well,
So
the whole
it's-
thing about this, Jill, and what you're doing is you're really establishing collaboration. And I like to say this is the good old girl, the good old boys network that they're developing, say middle school, high school, I think is the age that you're doing the YES program. But these are relationships that will carry throughout their entire life. And maybe they go off to university together, or they start a small enterprise together, what have you. I mean, there's no barrier to what they can achieve and what they can do.
We asked the students at the beginning of the summer, what would you like out of this? And what skills would you like to develop? And they do have a range of choices. So being able to promote them to that piece of success, even just for a short period of time in the summer, is important to us. Going beyond the summer work is important to them.
Well, looking at the summer, this is one of the complaints you have as far as education in the United States. Most school divisions, school systems around the globe are going many more days, many of them over 200 days in a year. And when you're going about 180, 185, it's very tough to compete in the international marketplace. But if you can have this kind of intensive learning and interaction, collaboration throughout the summer, it really gives them a 12-month education.
We've got some exciting ideas for next summer. I don't know that we have time to talk about it now, but it's fun and it's learning intensive. Those are good combinations.
We're almost running out of time, so I really want to go back to this YES. What was the genius behind this? Why this kind of program? And what do you see as far as the long-term benefit and all that in about 40 seconds?
I drew some inspiration from Argonne National Labs, which has an electric vehicle testing facility, and they have summer internships that focus on engineering and the environment. To be able to put a youth service corps wrapped around that, to me, gave it a generic branding. So our idea was, let's put together a youth service corps that could be anywhere in the world. And it should be. So whatever their content
real
is.
global outreach then.
Yes, open, innovation-oriented. Let's post what they found. Let's post their videos. Let's get as much of that information and their own stories out there and watch them grow.
Well, I think this is one of the exciting things about it, and what you're doing as far as the Baltimore-Washington Electric Vehicle Initiative is really exciting, and tying in the youth to this, Jill, is absolutely just fantastic. And we've just run out of time, and we're going to sit here and just chat for 30 seconds as